Hello, my name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. A very good evening to you, and today on Worldview, Israeli military carries out airstrikes and targets belonging to Palestinian militant group Hamas in southern Lebanon and Gaza Strip. Russian ruble falls to its lowest value for a year since shortly Russian Worldview today. The Israeli military has carried out airstrikes on targets belonging to the Palestinian militant group Hamas in southern Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. The military said the attacks were a response to a barrage of 34 rockets fired from Lebanon into northern Israel on Thursday, which it blamed on Hamas. Militants in Gaza fired dozens more rockets after the strikes began. The tensions are high following 2 nights of Israeli police raids at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem earlier this week. The raids triggered violent confrontations with Palestinians inside the mosque, which is Islam's third holiest site, and caused anger across the region. Hamas, who was visiting Beirut at the time, said Palestinians would not sit with their arms crossed in the face of Israeli aggression. Away from that, Russian forces spearheaded by mercenaries of the Wagner Group sieged the center of the eastern city of Bakhmut during the 58th week of the war. Yet Ukrainian defenders were still holding the Russian army at bay, and their commanders said the Russian offensive was now clearly waning. At the same time, pro-Russian civilians were evacuating southern occupied regions as thousands of Ukrainian soldiers completed their overseas training for a counter-offensive that could come later this month. Wagner mercenaries made advances into the center of Bakhmut on March 31. Geolocated footage showed them within 400 meters of the town hall. Meanwhile, the Russian ruble has fallen to its lowest value for a year since shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine. The currency slid to 82 rubles against the US dollar Friday morning on the Moscow Stock Exchange, MOEX. Russia has been hit with massive economic sanctions since it began an offensive in Ukraine in February 2022. Earlier this year, Russia said its economy had shrunk by 2.1% in 2022, far less than the 15% fall that had been predicted. The ruble also slid by 2% to 90.06 against the euro on Friday morning. Traders said the fall was linked to several factors, including lower oil prices in March, cutting Russian revenue, and the sale of Western businesses in Russia in the wake of the invasion. Away from that now, 2 Israeli women have been killed and another seriously injured in a shooting attack in the occupied West Bank. This is according to the Israeli military and medics. The women were in a car that crashed after being shot at near the settlement of Hamra in the Jordan Valley. The Magen David Adam ambulance service said 2 women in their 20s were declared dead at the scene. The third, who is aged 45, is in a critical condition. The military said its troops had started a pursuit of the terrorists. The incident was initially reported as a collision between an Israeli vehicle and a Palestinian vehicle, but when troops arrived, they found several bullet holes in the Israeli vehicle. The injured woman was taken by helicopter to hospital for treatment. Now, Israel Police Commissioner Kobi Shabtai called on all Israelis with firearms licenses to start carrying their weapons. There has been an intensification of violence between Israel and the Palestinians since the start of this year. In a separate development, a Chinese court has jailed 5 people in a high-profile human trafficking case of a woman found chained in a remote village last year. The case horrified the country and led to a crackdown on bride trafficking. The woman's husband was jailed for 9 years for torture, abuse, and keeping her captive. 4 traffickers received terms ranging from 8 to 13 years. But many reacting to the verdict on Friday said the sentences were too small and reforms were still lacking. Zhao Hemei's plight came to public attention in January 2022 when a Chinese vlogger found her living in a dirt floor hut outside her family home in the village in Zhouzhou province with an iron chain around her neck. Meanwhile, China has deployed warships and aircraft near Taiwan for a second day and imposed sanctions amid anger in Beijing over this week's meeting between the self-ruled island's President Tsai Ing-wen and U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. 3 Chinese warships sailed in waters surrounding the island, which China claims as its own, while a fighter jet and an anti-submarine helicopter also crossed the island's air defense identification zone. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense had said this today. On Wednesday, China's Shandong aircraft carrier was spotted sailing through Taiwan's southeastern waters on its way to the Western Pacific, hours before Tsai met McCarthy in Los Angeles. Beijing sent out repeated warnings before the meeting took place and issued a rebuke on Thursday after the event had concluded. In a separate development, U.S. President Joe Biden's administration has defended its decision to pull American troops out of Afghanistan, but said the 2021 withdrawal highlighted that Washington must better prepare for high-risk scenarios in the future. In a summary report on Thursday, United States government agencies involved in the pullout blamed former President Donald Trump's administration for issues that led to the chaotic U.S. exit from the country. The Trump administration had negotiated a withdrawal agreement with the Taliban that Biden pledged to honor, but Thursday's review criticized the former Republican president for a lack of planning to carry out the deal. Meanwhile, the United States, South Korea, and Japan have expressed deep concern over what they described as North Korea's malicious cyber activities in support of its banned weapons programs. Cryptocurrency funds stolen by North Korean hackers have been a key source of funding for the country's weapons programs, according to the United Nations, with such theft reaching a record last year. Kim Gon, South Korea's envoy, held talks with his U.S. and Japanese counterparts this week and condemned North Korea's continued weapons tests. Japan's envoy also strongly condemned the unprecedented frequency and manner of North Korea's missile launches as a serious and imminent threat to regional security, Japan's foreign ministry said. Now, Japan on Friday announced a 2-year extension of its trade ban on North Korea, with exemptions for humanitarian reasons. The U.S. and South Korea have been conducting a series of annual springtime exercises since March, including air and sea drills and their first large-scale amphibious landing drills in 5 years. In a separate development, the Canadian government has said that it is in the process of repatriating more than a dozen citizens from detention camps in northeast Syria. In a statement on Thursday, the Foreign Affairs Department said 10 children and 4 women would be returned to the country after being held in a Syrian camp for foreigners accused of being affiliated with ISIL. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has previously faced criticisms for moving slowly to repatriate Canadians held in the Syrian camps, known for poor conditions. After the break, Thai authorities say some 10,000 Burmese people have fled to Thailand to escape fierce fighting between the military and units of a powerful ethnic armed group since Wednesday. To stay with us for details on this and more right after the break.
is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Ibro.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord. I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Now, the Ethiopian government has said it intends to integrate all regional special forces either into the national army or the federal or regional police, a move likely to be perceived as an attempt to diminish the autonomy of individual regions. Ethiopia's 10 regions currently enjoy a degree of autonomy, ranging from having their own armies to the right to use their own language. The government said in a statement on Thursday that it has set a direction to build one strong and centralized army and has started practical steps that will allow special forces of every region to be integrated into different security structures. Hours before the announcement, local media from the Amhara region, Ethiopia's second largest, reported clashes between national and regional forces brought about by a refusal among Amhara Special Forces units to surrender weapons as part of the integration process. Amhara spokesperson Gizachew Mulune did not immediately respond to requests for comments. In its statement, the government confirmed tensions had arisen in Amhara but blamed it on a misunderstanding of the policy and on fringe groups within the regional force. South Africa's bid to have two brothers from the wealthy Gupta family extradited from the United Arab Emirates UAE has failed. Atul and Rajesh Gupta are accused in South Africa of profiting from their close links with former President Jacob Zuma and exerting unfair influence. The Justice Ministry said it had learned with shock and dismay about the move. The brothers, who deny any wrongdoing, fled after a judicial commission began probing a major corruption scandal. The Indian-born Guptas were arrested in the UAE last June and extradition talks with South Africa began, but the court in the UAE rejected the extradition application on a technicality. The Times Live news site quotes South African Justice Minister Ronald Lamola as saying, "The decision was made in February, but it was only communicated to South Africa on Thursday." Some 10,000 Burmese people have fled to Thailand to escape fierce fighting between the military and units of a powerful ethnic armed group since Wednesday. This is according to Thai authorities. They are fleeing from Shwe Kokos town, controlled by a pro-military militia and home to Chinese-owned casinos. This is one of the largest cross-border movements of people since a military coup 2 years ago. The military has not released a statement yet about the fighting. It is the latest in a civil war that has been raging since the coup in February 2021. 2 years on, the military government has failed to impose its authority on large areas of the country. It is battling established ethnic armed groups in border areas that have been at war with the military for decades and recently formed anti-coup militias that call themselves People's Defense Forces (PDFs) in much of the rest of the country. Many thousands of people have been killed and some 1.4 million have been displaced since the coup. Nearly 1/3 of the country's population is in need of aid, according to the United Nations. Saudi Arabia and Iran's foreign ministers have met in Beijing for the first formal gathering since China brokered a deal to restore relations between the top regional powers last month. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud and his Iranian counterpart Hossein Aramboulahian shook hands in the Chinese capital on Thursday. The officials said they have agreed to follow up on arrangements to reopen their diplomatic missions in their respective countries, to encourage visits of official and private delegations, and to facilitate visas for Iranian and Saudi citizens. They also agreed to discuss resuming flights between them. Pakistan's parliament has adopted a resolution rejecting a Supreme Court order to hold snap elections for 2 provincial legislatures in the country. The top court had declared the electoral panel's decision to delay the polls in Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa provinces unconstitutional on Tuesday. The former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party had dissolved the local governments in those provinces earlier this year. The motion on Thursday was tabled by legislator Khalid Magsi during a session of Pakistan's National Assembly in the capital, Islamabad. The House Speaker in a live broadcast said a majority of lawmakers had voted to reject the decision by the court's 3-member panel headed by the Chief Justice and to demand a full court panel consisting of all judges to hear the case. The Tennessee State House has expelled 2 Democratic politicians who led a gun control protest that halted legislative proceedings last week. In a rare move, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives voted 72-25 to expel Justin Jones and 69-26 to remove Justin Person. But an expulsion vote failed against the 3rd Democratic lawmaker, Gloria Johnson, who also joined the protest. Crowds of protesters have flooded the state capitol since a school shooting. The 27th March attack at Nashville's Covenant School killed 6 people, including 3 children. The so-called Tennessee Three took to the House floor chanting "No action, no peace" during a protest on 30th March, which also saw hundreds of pro-gun control demonstrators converge on the State House. A new research has shown that people were getting high on hallucinogenic drugs in Spain around 3,000 years ago. Scientists say that hair from a burial site in Menorca shows that ancient human civilizations used drugs derived from plants and bushes. It is believed to be Europe's oldest direct evidence of people taking hallucinogenic drugs. They would have induced delirium and hallucinations, researchers found. The findings, published in the journal Scientific Reports, showed signs of human activity at the Excarreds cave on the southwestern side of Menorca. The cave houses more than 200 human graves and is believed to have served as a ritual and funerary site for about 600 years until 800 BCE. Researchers found that the substances, which had the potential to be quite strong, may have been used as part of rituals held at the cave. These may have involved shamans who were capable of controlling the side effects of the plant drugs. Analysis of the rocks which had been dyed red during the ancient rituals and could have come from more than one person, detected 3 psychoactive substances along with atropine and scopolamine, which induce hallucinations. Scientists found ephedrine, which boosts energy and alertness. The researchers also noted that containers were found in the cave with spiral motifs carved on the lids. Some scholars, the report said, have considered this to represent a person's altered states of consciousness while under the influence of hallucinogens. Previous evidence of prehistoric drug use in Europe had been based on indirect evidence, such as the appearance of drug plants in artistic depictions. And finally, on Worldview today, Broadway star Laura Benanti has said she performed on stage earlier this week while having a miscarriage. The Tony Award-winning actress wrote on Instagram that she knew it was happening as it started slowly the night before. Benanti, aged 43, who has appeared in TV shows Nashville and Supergirl, was performing for 2,000 people on a Broadway-themed cruise, which also features Alan Cumming and Jeremy Jordan. With that, we wrap up our package for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. My name is Xavier Robert, reaching you live from the Yoda capital city of Akwa Ibom State, and you have been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.